Hi, I'm Ben, and I have ADHD.
I'm Bella and I also have ADHD, although people still think I don't, but more about that later.
For a lot of people, ADHD can be challenging and can make school and life in general a real struggle.
But we want to turn that around because if the support is there, we can make our ADHD a superpower.
So together, me and Bella are going to tell you all about ADHD. It stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
I've got a few issues with that.
So tell me about it. First thing that drives me mad is the whole disorder thing. It's not a disorder, I'm not broken and I don't need fixing. I prefer to think of it as a difference.
And what's this about it being an attention deficit? We ADHDers don't have a deficit in attention. Everything gets our attention. If anything, it's a surplus of attention.
What about hyperactive?
That's also confusing. Everyone thinks it means you're always whizzing around like Taz.
Who's Taz?
Tasmanian Devil! It was a cartoon back in the old days. Anyway, we're getting off track. My point is we can be hyperactive, but in ways that are not obvious. For instance, my brain works at 100 miles per hour. I think about so many things at once, it's hard to focus on any one of them.
So really, it should be called attention surplus hyperactivity.
But not necessarily in an obvious sense.
Yeah, agreed. Difference.
So, attention surplus hyperactivity, but not always in an obvious sense. Difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Bit of a mouthful though, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit. Shall we just stick to ADHD so not to confuse people?
Yes, let's press on.
Firstly, let's dispel some myths. You might think I'm naughty, rude, messy, chaotic, nuisance, forgetful, but I'm not.
You are a bit messy.
Well, all right, yeah, I can be, but it's not because I choose to be.
Which brings us nicely onto some of those myths we were on about.
Myth number 1. People with ADHD can't sit still.
That drives me nuts. I can sit still, but it doesn't mean I don't have ADHD.
I find it hard to keep still, but that's because I have proprioception sensory issues.
Proprioception means?
I know what proprioception means. It means I have to keep moving.
Myth number 2. People with ADHD are lazy. I mean, that's just rude, isn't it? We're not lazy, but with so many things grabbing our attention, it's difficult to focus. So it may come across to you that we're just not trying, but we are. We are just finding it difficult, that's all.
Myth number 3. Girls don't have ADHD.
I think we can agree that that's just rubbish. In fact, ADHD is often missed in girls as we don't always present the same as boys. I'll talk more about that later.
Myth number 4. We choose to behave or not to behave, as some people might put it. Well, we don't. ADHD means that we have difficulty managing impulsive actions. Think of it as having a brain like a Ferrari, but with bicycle brakes. As soon as a thought enters our brain, we do it, because our brakes are just not as efficient as a neurotypical's brain.
Myth number 5. ADHD is caused by bad parenting or by having a bad diet. That's simply not true. My mum's fab, and although it's not been proven conclusively, it is thought that ADHD is a genetic condition. Thinking about it, my uncle has ADHD.
And as for diet, despite extensive research, there is nothing that has been found that establishes a link to sugar consumption and increased levels of hyperactivity, despite what a lot of people think.
And another one, myth number 6, ADHDers are disorganised.
I mean, some of us do have trouble with organisation because our brains are trying to organise a million thoughts all at once, so we can be forgetful.
But some of us are the exact opposite, as we often mask our ADHD.
We ADHDers wear loads of masks.
Myth number 7, everyone's got ADHD these days. It is true that there is more awareness of ADHD and people are more aware of the symptoms, but that's no bad thing. It just means that more people are becoming aware of how their brain works. However, it does not mean that everyone has ADHD. Don't believe everything you see on TikTok.
I hate it when people say that. There are lots of people who face the same or similar challenges that those of us that have a diagnosis face, but they're not looking for a diagnosis.
So if social media helps people understand themselves and gives them ideas on how to manage their symptoms, that's got to be good, surely.
Of course! So, on to our final myth, which also drives me mad. ADHD isn't real.
How can people deny its existence? Especially when research, including MRI scans, have proven that not only does ADHD exist, but our brains are physically different to neurotypes.
So let's talk more about the brain and how it links with ADHD.
As we said before, ADHD is a neurological condition.
I don't think we have said that.
Well, we've said our brains work differently, which is the same thing.
Oh, fair enough.
Where was I?
Neurological thingy?
Oh, yes. Anyway, ADHD affects our brain in these 4 areas: the basal ganglia,
The limbic system
the reticular activating system.
and the frontal cortex. Hey, wake up!
Rather than talking about how the brain works, let's put it simpler. Over to you, Ben.
It's a bit like a crossroads. Often, at a crossroads, you have traffic lights. Everything is nice and orderly.
But sometimes the lights are not working, and when that happens...
Well, things become a little less ordered and a little less organised. And that's a bit like our ADHD brains.
In the same way that when the traffic lights are out, it's the car that gets there first, that gets to dictate what happens.
And that's like our ADHD brains. Whatever thought, emotion or distraction gets into our head, well, that's what zone we're in. Until the next thing comes along.
The unregulated intersection may explain why our attention wanders. Say you're in the kitchen cleaning up and find something that belongs upstairs. You take it toward the stairs, but you get distracted by the unfolded laundry you see in the living room as you walk by. You may think, I forgot to do that, and jump to folding laundry, forgetting that you were heading upstairs, not to mention cleaning up the kitchen.
It's the same for emotions. Whichever emotion is in focus at the moment becomes the fastest car. This is why those of us with ADHD express emotions more intensely than may be justified for a given situation.
For girls with ADHD, this emotionality is often misdiagnosed as a mood disorder. Remember when I said that girls often present differently to boys? That's because we often have the overlooked and, in my opinion, misnamed inattentive type. Our ADHD can present in ways that are not obvious. I can often get called a daydreamer, but people overlook my ADHD because I can hyper-focus on my work.
I take medication for my ADHD. It helps me to level out the peaks and troughs of the day